We are back with recording a lot of shit in bulk. Right now, we are going to read Like Two Peas in a Pod. But there's kind of two versions of this, so I'm going to call this one the comedy version. Because I don't know if I'm going to read the other one. Oh well. Anywho, I think this is a comedy one. I don't know. Checking. It's hard to tell, honestly. Fuck, I don't know which one's which! Fuck, which one's which? Or, fuck. I don't know which one this is! Oh, okay. You know what, I'm just gonna read the comedy one, because I've said I would. Fuck, this is a long intro, I'm sorry. I got confused, okay? Fuck. Fuck. Okay, today we're reading Two Peas in a Pod. This is the comedy version. I hope you enjoy. I still can't believe how crazy today it was. Twilight Sparkle blew a tuft of hair away from her eyes as she surveyed the cleanup effort currently ongoing across the canter lot. Though the changeling army had been driven from that hollowed city, the damage was still intense. All the ponies worked hard to tidy away piles of rubble and put out small fires amongst the wreckage. Twilight turned to her brother, who was silently scanning over a set of building plans whilst watching the repair efforts, doing his best to remain stoic, but more importantly, ignoring her. Wow. She gave him a friendly smack to the back of the head with her hoof. He still did not reply. So, a strange thing, Twilight continued. When I met Cadence, the real Cadence, that is, in the cave, she was all set to get married, so you must have been close to your wedding date when she was switched with the Changeling Queen. She trailed off, looking up at her brother. Shining Armor continued, staring ahead, giving encouraging nods to the workers. Well, yes, he finally replied. Turning to the smaller pony, a confused look on his face. What's bugging you, Twilight? You've been acting funny. Yeah, even after the whole invasion thing was sorted. Well, Twilight scratched her forehoof against the ground nervously. His eyes, in an exaggerated fashion, displaying a wry smile, finally gave Twilight the attention she had been clamoring for. Twilight, he said softly, catching her worried eye, is that really what's been worrying you? Twilight nodded, her legs twisting in nervousness. Yeah, she muttered, looking all around in an attempt to avoid eye contact. It's just, the more I think about it, the more I wonder if you really want me here at all. Stop that right now! Shining Armor pulled a hoof around Twilight's neck and brought her in for a quick hug. I won't have my little sister speaking like that. He grinned at her in unsure face, ruffling her mane before letting her go. It's like I said, I was just so busy with the wedding and protecting Camelot, it wasn't a slight on you at all. You're my sister, Twilight, and I love you. Aw. He smiled, She smiled. Twilight smiled back, giving a quivering upturn of the lips. That means a lot. She beamed as a relief washed over her face. I was so worried that it was something I had done. It's wonderful to know that, after all this time, you're still my big brother, best friend. She tilted her head before softly beginning to sing a melody. You're my big brother, best friend forever. Fuck. Why am I singing? Or trying to? She warbled. Shining Armor flushed red. Shining Armor flushed red as he turned back to the restoration plans. Oh, Twilight. He left. What do you like? Twilight started to skip around happily. She continued to sing solid. Like two peas in a pod, we did everything together. Shining's daughter head snapped up from the scroll she was reading, and the expression on his face was no longer one of contentment. What the hell was that? He half screamed, cutting across Twilight, singing around on her. Twilight gulped, shrinking back before her brother. Are you mad? Yes. He hissed, pressing his face into hers, eyes wide and twitching. Have you been singing that all the time? What's wrong with you, you crazy mare? Twilight gave a little squeak in shock, trembling slightly at the sudden shift in behavior from her sibling. I'm sorry? She ventured, wild-eyed. It's just a song. I didn't mean anything by it. With a huff of disgust, Shining Armor turned away. I swear, Twilight, Yapped yelled, startling some nearby construction workers. I can't even trust you for a moment. What if somebody realized the song what you were singing about? With a swipe of his forehooves, he crumpled up his plans and started to storm off. I knew you'd do something stupid like that. That's why I never wanted to invite you in the first place. Dick, move, Rideau. Mouth open, Twilight stared in shock after her departing brother, before sinking to her haunches, hugging herself softly. Like two pieces of pod, we did everything together. She half-spissered, half-sung to herself as the tears started to fall. It's so sad. This is the funny version, by the way. Or, this is the version that's funny. I promise you. Identify yourself! Twilight stopped in shock before the huge gilt doors to the throne room, looking at the rather sharp pikes that were held in the magical grasp of the two guards blocking her way in. She peered between the stoke guards, neither of whom showed even an ounce of familiarity or compassion on their stern faces. It's me, Twilight Sparkle. She frowned with slight annoyance. You know, bearer of the element of magic, saved Equestria several times, most recognizable face in Camelot, that Twilight Sparkle? The guard on his right looked down his muzzle as Twilight, as if considering something, but then shook his head. I'm sorry, Miss Sparkle, he barked, but the following recent changeling attack, Princess Celestia has ordered us to be extra careful. Can't trust any pony nowadays. You have any proof of your identity? If you don't have any papers, tell us something that only the real Twilight Sparkle would know. The guard on the left offered helpfully. Something that a changeling couldn't possibly guess. Oh, I see. That's fair enough, I guess. Twilight rolled her eyes as she tried to pick up a suitable response. What the better not tell I was 11. She finally chirped back brightly. No changeling would know that. The guards looked at each other warily, their pikes waving slightly. Is that true? The guard on the right hissed at his comrade. The guard on the left shrugged. I have no idea, he usually whispered back. I barely even know this mare. Jesus Christ. After a moment of frantic discussion, two guards eventually gave up, lifting their pikes to let Twilight pass. All in order, ma'am. Jesus Christ. The guard on the right saluted smartly as Twilight trotted into the throne room. It was not the calm epicenter of order that Twilight was used to. Instead of the great and the good of Camelot waiting in line patiently to address Princess Celestia on her throne room, the room was full of panicked voices of ponies in wild disarray, wandering back and forth, shouting roughly and shaking their fellows. What the hey? Sorry. What the hey? Twilight muttered as she looked in the confusion that filled the usually serene room. The princess was nowhere in sight, and without her guiding influence, it seemed that everybody was getting more and more wound up over something. Twilight! Twilight jumped as from the ground as Applejack leapt on her. I'm glad it's you, Twilight. Applejack went in for a hug, then recoiled slightly, staring at Twilight with suspicion. If it is you, how can I know y'all aren't a chance ready to take over Equestria again? Twilight frowned at Applejack, shaking her head slowly. Applejack, it's me, Twilight. You know that. Besides, the changeling is gone, and the guards at the front let me in. But what if the guards are changelings? Applejack peered around the room at a whole of ponies. What if we're the only real ponies and everybody else is ready to leap on us? She gave a tug on a rope tied around her hind leg. Only way to be sure is to stick together. Yep. From the midst of a group of slightly nervous aristocratic pony, dispersed a shivering pink-maned Pegasus who landed at Twilight's hooves with a gasp, attached to the end of Applejack's rope. Twilight. Attached the rope to Applejack so I know that she's the real Applejack, Fletcher squeaked helpfully. But before turning to Applejack, sorry I got cut up, she whispered, trailing up. But when I can't see you, a changeling took your place, and now I'm tied to a changeling and you're going to eat me. She collapsed onto the ground, throwing her four hooves over her face for dear life. That's adorable. Twilight sighed with a huff and looked up at the empty throne room. What's going on, Applejack? I got a message to come and see the princess, and it seems like the whole of Camelot is here. I don't know. Applejack threw a shifty eye down at Fluttershy, but I bet it's something to do with the changeful menace. Hey, do you think Fluttershy has been acting a little too scared lately? Almost like a pony doing a Fluttershy impression. No, that's just Fluttershy. Nobody can do a Fluttershy impression. Only Fluttershy can. Before Twilight could refute Applejack's wild speculation, a round of trumpeting from all corners of the room silenced the baying crowd, and after the final mutterings had died down, all eyes turned towards the empty throne. A soft glow enveloped the royal podium, and then with a flashlight, Princess Celestia teleported into view. Da-da-da-da! I'm talking now. I'll listen to my voice after this. The crowd went wild, cheering with relief at the sight of their beloved princess. All except a voice at the back, which screamed, Run! Chrysalis has come back disguised as Celestia! Nice. Celestia simply smiled at this, waving a hoof regally at the gathered ponies. My loyal subjects, she began, making eye contact with each pony in turn, receiving an expression watching over the gathering. It has not escaped my notice that there have been somewhat of an unrest in Camelot of late. I have given the matter much thought, and can assure you that steps are being taken so that pony will have to live in fear of the changeling incursion ever again. Twilight leaned over to her companions, a wry grin on her face. See? Nothing to worry about. The princess has got it all sorted. Mm-hmm. Sure. To that end, the princess continued, I have perfected a spell that would neutralize all changeling magic across Equestria. When the spell is cast tonight, any and all Shapeshifting magic will instantly nullify, permanently exposing any changelings and protecting Equestria from any more trickery. At Celestia's announcement, the entire crowd started to cheer, whoops of joy filling the air. Only one pony did not join the celebrations, staring up at the princess as a wave of cold terror clenched in her heart. I've got to talk to some pony, Twilight croaked out, her head reeling as she slunk away from Applejack's constant hollering. The princess's words were like a dagger to the chest. It was over! What do you want, Twilight? Shining Armor looked up from his paperwork at annoyance as his sister frantically burst into the house, her frazzled mane perfectly matching the rather fraught emotional state that she seemed to be in as she stood shaking and gibbering before him. It's over, Shining Armor! She gasped through panicked tears, wiping a hoof across her face. It's over! It's all over! We've got to get over here before we're discovered! Shining Armor slowly stood up, looking at Twilight in abject horror, his brow creasing into a snarled frown. It was that damn singing, wasn't it? Didn't I tell you, Twilight? His eyes boggled and he gulped for deep breaths as the news sunk in. Didn't I warn you? No, it's not that. No pony knows yet. Twilight rounded on her brother, trying to move closer, her face full of concern. It's a princess. She's got a spell to expose all changelings. Oh, that. You had me worried for a moment. Shining Armor mopped his brow in relief and slumped backwards onto a cushion. Twilight, that spell's only going to undo changeling magic. We've got nothing to worry about. No! Twilight drew herself to eye level with the older pony, shaking him with her forehooves. It's all shape-shifting magic. That's what the princess said! All shape-shifting magic will be affected. Shining's armor face drained, an impressive feat considering he was already pure white. You mean... Twilight nodded grimly. Yes, they'll learn that we're pod ponies. Frauds. When Celestia casts that spell, the magic holding us in our pony bodies will dissolve and we'll turn back into our natural form. Yep. Shining Armor started to tremble, one hoof resting on Twilight's, barely able to get the words out. Peas, he croaked weakly. Yes, peas. Twilight hung her head, shaking it from side to side in despair. So I learned that we're just two peas, magically transformed by a wandering wizard into ponies and taken by a childless couple who raised us as their own. Well, why now? Shining Armor gritted his teeth in frustration, throwing his gaze up to the heavens. I've got a life now! A wife! She'll understand. Won't she, Twilight? Cadence will understand? I wish I could say yes. Twilight spoke softly now, stroking her brother's mane as he leant into her neck and started to sob. But whoever heard of a princess and a pea? But it wouldn't work. You know what they'll do. Fuck. You know what they'll do. They'll hunt us down before we can roll to safety. They'll boil us or put us in a salad. Twilight shivered. Eat your greens. That's what Celestia always said. I tried not to, you know. I put a carrot under my tongue, spit it out when nobody was looking, but sometimes... She felt hot tears pricking down her cheeks as the painful memories resurfaced. Sometimes there was no way out. I have to sit there and eat my salad until my plate was clean. I'm a monster! Yeah, really. This is the actual story, everybody. Shining Armor pulled away, sniffling away his own tears as he looked into his sister's face. You're not a monster, he said softly. We do what we can do to survive. Oh, Twilight. His expression became crestfallen. We should never have left the pod. We should have never listened to that wizard. I'm gonna blame Gandalf. I'm gonna call him Gandalf, and I'm gonna blame him. Because, you know, I don't know. We should have been Sown Pony's dinner. Well, that's rather morbid. Twilight stamped a hoof, suddenly taking on more determined air. No, Shining Armor. We have lives now. Friends. We're still the same underneath, whether we are living, breathing ponies or small, inanimate peas. When we were two peas in a pod, we did everything together. Now do this with me. Or at least now that we can't escape, we have to face this and come clean. You know, they prove a very good point. They're very important lives. Twilight is the element of friggin' magic. And Shining Armor is the captain of the guard. And he married a princess. This is bad. Shining Armor nodded, looking toward the windows as the sun began to set. We've not much time, he gulped, looking at Twilight for reassurance. Don't worry, Twilight straightened up. Once they hear what I've got to say, I'm sure they'll understand. This is where things get kind of intense, everybody. It seemed like every single pony in Canterlot had traveled to the royal palace to see Princess Celestia cast her spell. The princess stood atop a huge flight of steps, watching the sun go down as below a multitude of colored ponies stared intently. I can't do it. Shining Armor placed a hoof on the steps, pausing to look at Twilight, his eyes quivering. Not in front of every pony. It's okay. Twilight smiled warmly, planting a small kiss on her brother's head. Go to your wife. I'll sort this out. That's what sisters are for. With that, she turned away and started her lonely march towards Celestia. Below her, the crowd was cheering as one. The royal guards let Twilight pass without comment this time, and she was soon at the dizzying summit, sparing a glance down to pick out her friends who were gazing up at her. She gave a sheepish smile as she approached Celestia, who seemed rather absorbed in watching the sunset. Princess? Twilight tugged nervously at Celestia's side, flinching slightly as if she would instantly be struck down for her defiance. Nothing happened. Celestia simply turned to smile at Twilight. Twilight, my faithful student! She exclaimed in the calm, austere tone that accompanied all of her proclamations. I thought you would be with your friends, but please, if you wish to see this spellcast, by all means stay. It is a particularly difficult spell. You may learn a lot. Twilight was silent for a moment before responding. You may learn a lot, too, she whispered back meekly, turning away from Princess for a moment. She then gulped hard, gathering up all her courage. Princess, I know this is for the best, and I understand, but please, can I address the crowd before you cast your spell? Oh. The smile on Celestia's face fell in an instant, and Twilight could feel a cold pit opening in her stomach as the princess looked upon her with new, colder eyes. I see, Twilight, I see. She took a step back to allow Twilight to stand in full view of the crowd, before adding, I'll make a good Twilight Sparkle. Twilight nodded, taking a deep breath as she looked down at the throng of ponies below. Several hooves pointed in her direction, and cheer went up. They loved her! They wouldn't soon! Fighting back the tears which threatened to pour from her eyes, she nervously began to speak. Fillies and genticles, she choked out. But it was lost amongst the baying of the crowd beneath her. She slumped slightly, only to see Celestia's horn glow with a soft magical burst. A loudspeaker spell, Celestia encouraged. Try again. Fillies and genticles! This time Twilight's voice boomed out across Camelot, almost scaring her with the sudden reverberation. All other ponies stopped their clamoring to look at Twilight with rapt attention. The eyes of the nation were upon her, and yet she had never felt so alone. You all know me as Twilight Sparkle, Twilight continued, but there is something else which you do not know. A dark secret I have kept. She looked at Celestia, who simply nodded grimly, her face betraying no emotion. I'm not the mayor you all think I am. In fact, I'm not a mayor at all. There was a scattered gasp from below, and from the corner of her eye, Twilight saw Celestia take a step back. Are you all ready for this? I hope so. She could feel her trembling forehead start to give way, while with a stubborn burst of resolve carried on. I have been living a lie all these years with the help of a magic spell. You see, the lump in her throat felt bigger now, claws clutching at her. I'm really She couldn't bring herself to say P. Say it. P. The shame flushed at her, swirling around with guilty thoughts as her inner secrets were laid bare. I am not ashamed, she carried on with determination. I am the Twilight Sparkle you have known and loved, and I am not ashamed of my... She searched for the right word. Penis. There, the secret is out. Normal lies. The crowd instantly burst into a babble of exclamations, and even Princess Celestia looked shocked. Twilight smiled grimly, sweeping her gaze across the crowd. I had to speak out and tell you all of my penis, she cried, because when Celestia's spell was cast, all shape-shifting magic was dispersed. My penis would be revealed to all, and you would hate me. Or want to hurt me. Or eat me. She could finally take the stress no longer, and her legs gave away. Instead of hitting the ground, she felt one of Celestia's rings wrapping around her, staring up in wonderment at the gaze of the mentor, who simply looked back with a loving gaze. Oh, Twilight, Celestia exclaimed. I thought you were going to reveal you were a changeling. Please forgive me. This is nothing to be ashamed of. This is nothing. You are still the same Twilight Sparkle. Really? Twilight felt tears welling up again. This time, ones of happiness, as the weight of she had carried for so many years finally lifted. You mean that? Oh, darling, I knew all along. Twilight twisted her head around and surprised to see Rarity ascending the steps, followed by the rest of her friends. It was obvious from how you looked and spoke and dressed that you had your little secret. You're not alone, Rarity winked. You're not alone, Twilight. Trust me. God. Twilight let Celestia's grip loosen, and she turned to her friends, beaming with joy. I can't tell you how happy I am, she cried. She half cried in relief. I've been trying to hide my penis for so long. I thought you wanted to boil me alive. That's crazy. Rainbow Dash leapt in the air and did an instant somersault, landing beside Twilight in a multicolored blur and giving her a big hug. This is awesome news. I've been totally crushing on you for ages, and I thought that meant I was a lesbian. Now I know your secret. It all makes sense. I never knew you liked gardening. Twilight started back, giving a warm smile. She turned to Celestia. Thank you, Princess. Thank you for being so understanding, she simpered. Should I tell the crowd about my brother's penis, too? No, Twilight, that wouldn't be appropriate. Celestia curtly replied back to the crowd herself. Horn is starting to glow. Twilight, I would be honored if you would stand beside me while I cast my spell. Magic, wow. Twilight proudly shot next to Celestia, giving a quick wink to her friends as she did so. Below her, the gathered ponies were cheering, and she could even hear some chanting her name. In the distance, she could make out the side of her brother standing next to Cadence. She waved and could see him returning the gesture. Chest puffed out with pride, she turned to Celestia. This means so much to me, Princess, to stand here with you at my side. I now know that my penis is nothing to be ashamed of. It is part of who I am. Very wise, my pupilla. Celestia turned her head to the heavens as the last rays of the sun dipped under the horizon. Her horn blazed with a powerful light. A sudden wash of energy flared out and blazed across Christia. In an instant, Twilight vanished with a pop, to be replaced with a single tiny green pea, which hung in the air for a moment before falling to the ground. Celestia stared at the pea in stunned silence for a moment. Her brow creased with puzzlement, then it hit her. Oh! She exclaimed. I get it now. Penis. Yep. I got nothing to say. Goodbye.